Good evening, everybody. My name is Faheem Jackson, and this is the third episode of In the Know. This is a daily short form podcast show which is aimed at putting people in the know. A show where I cover a variety of topics using my experiences and viewpoints in life to put people in that know. What is that know? It's the understanding that seems to be hard for people to grasp, which will make their lives a lot simpler. The following is an intro speech into the topic of today, and that speech is regarding how we should study in school. You see, in school, I hate to admit it, but I always had a problem with studying. My focus always shifted to somewhere else, and if the course was something I didn't like, then I really would shift my focus someplace else. But you see, over the years, I had to develop a style for studying that would make it easier for me to understand the material that I had read. And here is where I would hate to study. It was remembering those paragraphs that I had read in the textbook. But reading the statements in conjunction with the notes that I took in the course, it made it easier to remember what I had read. And the following is how you should study. Let's look at the definition of studying: the learning and discovering of information, academic work, and or investigation on a subject. What are some of the reasons why we should study? Academic reasons: homework, tests, quizzes, the homework you get throughout the week, the quizzes you get at different points throughout the semester, and then the test, which makes up a great portion of your overall grade, which is why you should really study throughout the entire academic semester. You might also learn something that you didn't know. You could learn more about something that you already know, or train your mind for memorizing callback situations. You can expand your academic base for self exploration, or even teach others what you know, such as your peers, for a healthy conversation. But then when you start to get into your intimate life, you can now have something to talk about, some type of dating point, so that you're not just dull on a date. Now let's look into areas of where one can study. You can study just about anywhere. Some of the typical places are, of course, at home when you go home at the end of the day. There's school, which is right before school start in class. You can also do it at lunch, during lunchtime in the cafeteria, or right after school and just stick around for a little bit. You can also study in the library, or if you live in a city like New York, you have so many public spaces that you can study. And this is one of the locations where I live. Now let's look at things like ways to study. You have to study smart. Everything that is hard doesn't have to be hard. Sometimes people make things more than they need to be, and then they waste time when they could have actually worked smarter and conserved a lot more time. You can do things in long form, such as learning material over the course of an hour, maybe even 2 hours. Or you can do short form and study in such as half hour increments. Studying alone is what most people do. Understand some things that may be done alone. You focus on your strengths. Uh, your contribution can be contributed to a group once you do get together, and know what you can handle. This can be done alone before you even get into a group. Now, once you do get into group work, always know that multiple heads are better than one. It gives you a sense of perspective so that you're not always reading and understanding the things from your own personal perspective. You can also get more work done and attain maximum output when you're working with groups of people. You're also bringing talents of different people together so that there's a diverse group of people to maximize your strengths. Lessen your risk of information unfound. You see, when you're looking through the books yourself, you always tend to overlook something that somebody else has found, and this can be great when you're working in a group. Now, let's look at how to study. Read everything over and over again until you understand it. So if you read a paragraph and you don't understand it, don't hesitate to go back. Also, break down notes regarding sections. Like, you want to read one section, write your notes and break it down, and then write notes again based on another section, and break these sections apart so that they're separate from what it looks like within the book. You want to also anticipate what may be on the test and memorize key statements and terminology because you know for a fact that that is going to be on tests and quizzes. Now let's look at when to study. You can study in the morning, on the way to work or school, especially way to work if you're a college student. And this can be done, like I said, I live in New York City, so there's subways, there's buses. You're not going to find anybody walking up the street studying. So there's always a method to study going to work, especially if you're not the person driving the vehicle. Let's say during the daytime, at lunch, or if you're in college, in between courses. But typically, people can study at night. This is when work is finished, your job, and after classes, right before sleep. Now, we go into the end statement, which is why we all need to study. You see, in our attempt to get good grades by studying, you learn that studying aids in other means of your life as well. For me, even making this podcast took me studying and going back to build the episodes for the show. And I get it. Studying is boring and it sucks to do it. But in order to understand what it is you're talking about, you must do it. You must do some type of in depth studying of the topic at hand. See, me, the topics that I talk about, I've already been down the road of accomplishments. That's why I started with education because I've already been through the school process. So here's where I start: study, study, study. That's the greatest advice I can give to you. So, thanks everybody for listening to this episode of In the Know. Can't wait to bring the next episode where we talk about what school I should attend after high school.